I will meditate on your precepts and contemplate on your ways. I will delight myself in your statutes. I will not forget your word. Psalm 119, 15 and 16. Hey, what's up? This is God Peddler. I'd like you to join me on a ride that explores our spiritual journeys. John chapter 6, verses 57 and 58 tells us, "As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who feeds on me will live because of me. This is the bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers ate the manna and are dead. He who eats this bread will live forever." It seems like our recent lectionary readings are like a bakery. We have the true bread, the living bread. Today we're going to talk about the heavenly bread, and next week talk about eternal bread. All of the metaphors are rich with theology, but not so much in the type of theology that appeals to our minds, but the kind of theology that's personal and from God, that it touches our souls, it feeds our hearts. And the source of that bakery, we know, is heaven. And we know that what was sent is Jesus. He is the bread that came down from heaven. The source of supply comes from God our Father, the creator of all things, the maker of all things, the king of all things, the judge of all things. He's the one. Someone said that the unleavened bread of the Exodus reminded them of the haste and eagerness with which they had left their life in bondage in Egypt, on their way to a life of liberty as a new nation of their own land. They remembered the manna in the wilderness, bread from heaven that preserved their lives during the journey from Egypt through the wilderness to their new home in Canaan. The bread of the presence, or showbread, that was placed daily in the holy place of the temple reminded them that God was their provider and sustainer, and they lived constantly in His presence. There's a rich historical and cultural basis coming from the Old Testament and the Jewish tradition. But this is a type. A type means a foreshadowing in the Old Testament of a person or event in the New Testament that's fulfilled. The New Testament person or type fulfills the Old Testament prophecy or prediction or the image. So this bread of heaven, the Jews are obviously referring to that incident in the desert where God gave them manna to save their lives. And as I mentioned before, He saved their physical lives. But now the bread from heaven is Jesus Christ, the heavenly bread. Why? Well, so we can get to heaven. It's you receive that heavenly bread, you receive the heavenly Messiah, the Son of God. You receive salvation, and it can only be found in Him. May you see your journey through to God Himself. Join me next time on GodPeddler.com. I post every weekend and every midweek. God bless.